Hi everybody. Today, as part of this vlog that we're doing for September Roundup, we've got a nice special little feature which welcomes our friend of FINDRA, Stewart Wilson, also known as the Tweed Valley Blogger. Stewart is also a tour guide and has a lot of knowledge about all things Tweed Valley and beyond, and is a wealth of knowledge about lots of historical facts, which you're going to find out soon. So Stewart, it's nice to have you here. It's nice to be here.
It's lovely to be here, you're right.
Yeah.
It is almost unseasonably warm
Yeah,
in this beautiful wee bit of woodland here.
Yeah, I'm kind of triple layered up and a bit sort of melting at the minute. So, but it is beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
Behind us, you might notice, is what might look like a bit of a sort of rundown relic, and you might be kind of wondering, why are we sitting in front of it? But actually what is behind us is a really incredible piece of architecture, and was the studio of world-renowned textile designer Bernat Klein, who was based in the Scottish borders, and an incredibly creative and influential textile designer and fashion designer throughout the 50s, 60s and 70s. And today I just felt it was nice to come out and to put into context the importance of Bernat Klein in terms of his influence in the fashion and textile world, but also the fact that he was based in the Scottish borders. And we're going to chat a bit. Stewart, as I said, is very knowledgeable about the architect that designed this building, the building itself, and also the relationship between the architect and the textile designer Bernat Klein. So we just thought it would be great to give you a little insight into who Bernat Klein was, who the architect was that built this incredible building. Just up the hill, you can't see yet, but just up the hill is Bernat Klein's home, also designed by the same architect that designed his studio. And we just want to talk about that relationship that Bernat Klein had to the landscape, because he was hugely inspired by the landscape in the Scottish borders. It influenced his work, his colour work. But he also had ambition to create his home and his studio in a way that also reflected the landscape and worked with the landscape. And whilst this looks like a really awful piece of architecture to some people, to others it's incredible, and I personally love it. And so I think it would be great to hear from Stewart a bit more about all of that.
Well, that's quite a wide canvas to deal with, Alex, but no, I am very passionate about this subject, and I think it's a very beautiful building as well, even in it is a slightly rundown state at the moment, but there is a happy ending which we'll come to. So the architect was a man called Peter Womersley, who, like Klein, they were similar age. They were both born in the 1920s, and they both. The Scottish borders is a strange place. We know the borders quite well, and it's a place that's overlooked quite often. It's literally people fly over it to go to Edinburgh or Glasgow to go south, or they drive round it. But every now and then people find their way into the interior and kind of get lost here a wee bit. And I think Klein and Womersley are two of the best examples of that. Two people that found their way here and settled here and brought so much to the area in their various different ways. Womersley, he designed a house for his brother in Huddersfield. He was an Englishman, and he built a modern house, very much in the modernist style, the style that the High Sunderland and various other houses around the borders that he would go on to build. And it was very well thought of. And there was a man who owned a mill in Galashiels called Schofield. Schofield's mill's still there, actually, on Huddersfield Street, as it happens. And he brought Peter Womersley to the borders to build him a house, basically. And the house is still there. It's in Gattonside, and it's called the Rig, I believe. A very beautiful modernist house. And this caught the eye of Bernat Klein, who was already in the borders, drawn here by the rich textile heritage. And Klein, of course, well, they really were kindred spirits. They were great friends. I know that from reading Bernat Klein's daughter, Shelley, wrote a wonderful book a few years ago. They called him Uncle Peter. That's the level of friendship.
How close they were.
They were very close friends. And they collaborated incredibly closely, both on High Sunderland, which came first, down to the crockery that was in the place.
Because these people, it's in them to have everything touched in the same way. That handwriting has to go across everything, and it's that sort of level of detail that I think is really, really important. And make such a powerful statement. And I think when someone like Bernat Klein, his work, and I remember I listened to the Shelley's talk on the radio. There was a podcast series about her book, but it was her talking, and she talked about coming back to look after her dad when he was elderly, Bernat Klein, and how he really got very uncomfortable because she put some plants on the window ledge in the kitchen, and he was very, very uncomfortable with this because it kind of interfered with his visual aesthetic. And I just think you can see where these two creative people have come together, and how they were absolutely on the same page in terms of that visual aesthetic and purist about it. You know, that's obvious.
Yeah, I think he saw that house as an extension of himself, and he was obsessed with clean lines, colour. Colour was obviously huge for Klein.
Absolutely.
But he influenced Womersley as well. That I can see it. If you look at that house, you can see the warp and the weft in it, I think, anyway. And likewise, the studio behind us, it's mainly concrete, but there's glass as well. But the concrete is textured, and if you think about those wonderful tweeds of Klein that would have this amazing texture, there's definitely an influence there.
Absolutely.
And of course that came later. So by that time, this was built in 1972. The house was built almost 20 years before that. So they'd been working together for a while. They were really got to know each other.
Influencing each other, and sort of the influence from the textile was coming into the architecture, and the sort of architecture was feeding probably into the textile side of things. So it's a fascinating relationship, and one that I think is incredible to think that was going on in the Scottish borders. That's, as you say, we're not known.
No, we're not, but we do welcome people if you.
Well, I'm not from here originally.
Well, you made it all the way from Coatbridge.
I did, all the way from Coatbridge, which is near Glasgow, in case you don't know. But I studied here, so I came here and studied, and my family have always had a really strong connection with the Scottish borders, and I've known and travelled up and down here from being quite young, and then went away and came back, and it pulled me back again. So I've been here for 18 years. This is my third round, and I feel very much now that I'm part of it and part of the community. But yeah, just how they were embraced.
Yeah, I think what Klein found here, and what you'll find here to this day, is an exceptionally skilled workforce. 100%. And very proud of the work they do. So the Borders textile industry has changed beyond all recognition. There was a huge boom in the Victorian era and before. And obviously globalisation, things change. But it's still there. And if you go to places like Schofields and Gala, like the mills in Hoyk, like FINDRA, all these places, there is a high level of skill. There is a high focus on design and making sure the products are still the cutting edge. And there's a real pride in the work.
Absolutely.
So that has never gone.
No.
The big mills have closed. The big orders are now being done overseas, but the industry's still here. The skill is still here, and I think that appealed to Klein. Somebody who, as I said earlier, he was very suspicious of tradition. I don't know what he would have made of Selkirk common riding, for example. I think he was all.
Been an interest. I'd love to have been a fly in the wall.
because his vision was always forward. What's next? What's coming up next?
I think that's a very entrepreneurial thing as well. I think entrepreneurs are always looking ahead, don't often kind of look back, even at their own. I know personally I've got to sort of ensure that at times I stop and look back at the journey. I think, people are like always wanting to be relevant, I think, as well, and he very much would want to do that. And I know that he sold on a world stage. Coco Chanel commissioned him. She was the first of the couture houses to commission him some of his fabrics, and that then led to selling fabrics to people like Balenciaga, Yves Saint Laurent, and Christian Dior. So he really was at a high level. The product, but what he was producing was just so different of the time, and the colour work was just so beautiful.
Well, it still stands out. If you see a Klein piece today, you'll know it's him.
Yes.
And he's not been producing stuff for decades.
In fact, talking of that, I walked down the high street yesterday and I spotted one in Louise's vintage
Oh,
shop,
really?
and I thought that looks, and I went, and there was a Bernat Klein for sale. So
yeah,
you're right.
It is. I think what's interesting as well is when we sit here in this lovely wee bit of woodland with the road going past us between Selkirk and Innerleithen.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful part of the world, but it's not the place you would expect to see fashion houses from London coming necessarily. But they did. They came to the house for fashion shoots, they came to the studio later. And I think that's just an amazing
it's
story.
incredible to think that you could get, because everybody goes to London, right? And I've worked in the fashion and textile industry for 30 odd years, and everybody, has gone, when you go to London, that's where it's at. And to think that in those days, back in the 50s, 60s, he got people here. He got the buyers to come here. I wonder what that must have been like for them as an experience, because they'd get to Edinburgh and then be transported down here.
And they would just keep going.
The roads would wind, and eventually they'd turn up here. And it must have been incredible, an incredible experience. And then they'd sit in that beautiful house, architecturally designed, and it was a fascinating house. And the models would walk around them. And
I've seen the pictures. It's just, it is. I think it probably added to the experience. I think he would have liked that as well. I would have liked. Well, he would certainly. His ego, I'm sure, would like the fact people were coming to him, and that shows how much power he had as a designer. But he would also like the fact that they were coming to this house that was so much part of his aesthetic.
Absolutely.
It was just an extension of him. So it's like, no, you come to me, you come to High Sunderland, and you'll see the real Bernat Klein.
You'll understand the whole process, because it's the whole design process, and as a designer, that process is so important. That kind of concept, idea, from being inspired by the landscape around him, and his eye on that landscape, what he then interpreted from that landscape, his paintings, which he then took into textiles. And I remember when he had an exhibition on in Edinburgh. It was a very recent exhibition that was put together by the Bernat Klein Foundation, and there was some little pieces where some of the people that worked in the mills and stuff were talking about him. And there was quite an old bit of footage about how he really, the dyers, like having to come up with these incredible dye recipes to really achieve the colour that he wanted to achieve in those fabrics. And so that whole process, I think getting it across to those buyers that everything is heart and soul's put into that, and it's a statement he's making. They're not just buying a piece of cloth, they're buying into his brand, if you like. And his story, and I think that it's very authentic and it's very, very special. And to think that was all happening right here.
And you can understand why that talks to somebody like you, who pours yourself into your brand, and it's so important, that authenticity. I think it's incredible it was here, and I think we look at the studio today, and it is in a bit of a sorry state. It's been empty for quite a while now, and he sold it, and it was bought by the council, became Scottish Enterprise.
I came here in the 90s, So when I came back from London, I worked for Barry Knitwear, which is now owned by Chanel, a big player in the Scottish textile industry, and we would come here, and all the trend books would be here for us to look at for our design process, to be inspired, and it was such an amazing place to come to. I absolutely loved coming to this building. And
it's got his fingerprints all over it, Womersley and Klein. I love the fact that just behind us, it's boarded up just now, but you have his private entrance, because he would walk down from what a commute right through the sycamore wood here.
Amazing.
He would walk down there, but that's just, it adds to that whole idea of it being an extension of him. All the guests would go in downstairs, and the master would be upstairs waiting for them. Absolutely. I just love that idea. It is, when looking at it, and there's two things about it. It is in decay at the moment, but there's something beautiful about that decay. And I mean, we were looking at the concrete as we came in, and the concrete's kind of weathered in. It doesn't look unlike the bark of some of these sycamore trees now. It really fits into this landscape. And who would have thought that when it was built? I mean, it shows the genius of Womersley and Klein, that this building, which on the face of it is quite incongruous in this landscape of rolling hills and ancient farmlands and old abbeys and everything, but give it time and it's started to weather in beautifully.
And I think as well, what I love is that even though it might not look like it's sympathetic to the landscape, when you're in that building, one of the things when I was in that building that I loved was sitting looking out to the view over there, and just seeing, the architect had this incredible way of capturing and framing landscape through the window, so that you got this beautiful view that was just this framed little piece of the landscape. And I think in that respect, it responds incredibly well to the landscape.
Yeah.
You know?
Quite sympathetic, actually,
Yeah.
because and that's the thing, because we forget that for somebody like me, I've spent my whole life driving down that road, fascinated by this, usually empty. In fact, I can hardly remember ever seeing anyone in it. But we see it from the outside.
Yeah.
This was a building that was designed. It was designed to be looked at and to be admired.
Yeah.
But it was for being inside. That was the inspiration.
Yeah.
These beautifully framed, rolling, wavy hills
Absolutely.
of the borders. And now, with the trees that have come up around it, the top floor is almost in amongst the canopy. So
that's right.
The good news is that we will be able to see inside it again, because earlier this year, a consortium headed by the National Trust for Scotland, the Scottish Historic Buildings Trust, and the Bernat Klein Foundation managed to get the money together to buy it, which is incredible.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so
really
it has
good outcome.
Well, it has a future now.
Yeah.
I mean, the future for a long time has been uncertain, and those of us who admire the work of both these men and just admire beautiful things in the borders, I've kind of been wringing our hands in despair a little bit about
how it could be left to go to rack and ruin.
Yeah,
thing.
Because it is an A-listed building. It's seen as architecturally important. It's arguably one of the finest modernist buildings in Scotland. So the fact that it now has a future, we believe there'll be a big restoration job, which will, lest we forget, will employ local people.
Well,
there'll be local crafts and trades that are involved in the restoration, which ties it again back into our local community here and gives us that sense of ownership again. But it will also be a future for the Bernat Klein Foundation, who I believe are going to use it as their permanent base, which
so good.
Well, I mean, in terms of what we're doing today, I think is just brilliant that you're using this platform to draw awareness to him, to how he inspired you and how he continues to inspire people. But this will only increase that. Yeah.
But I think that's so important. I think there's, as you say, there's a really rich heritage in the borders, and for me, tradition's important, but it's respecting that tradition, but also, you know, looking forward and looking at how we keep it going and keep things going, and valuing sort of the real skills and talent of the people in the borders, but also those that they've embraced, like the architect Peter Womersley and also Bernat Klein, and how these people have brought so much and gave so much to the Scottish borders, that it's only right that we respect that and keep it alive.
Yeah, well, they are part of our tradition now.
Yeah,
they've become part of that. Both of them have sadly passed away now, but they won't be forgotten.
No.
And the fact that the Gallifreydine stand has been restored, this building is now getting restored, there is an increased appreciation of their work, and the fact that these two men are inextricably linked, really. So you could say I've been part of the borders now.
My goodness, there you go. That's quite a statement. Oh well, do you know what? It's been so good to sit here. It's been brilliant to just sit and chat, and you know so much about that story, and I just love the way you understand the connection to the borders and the sort of way it's, you know, pardon the pun, but woven into the history of the textile industry, and it's just so lovely to sit here and chat about it.
And it's a nice day for it. I mean,
it is. We're lucky.
We are getting, I don't know about you, but I'm getting eaten alive.
I've been watching.
I've not got a FINDRA beanie on to protect my head.
So maybe we should head up to the house and just have a wee wander and a wee quick look at the house. Would be good. So let's go for it.
Okay.
It is amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's just such a quirky part of the borders, you know, and I love it when my sister lives